Hello everybody. Today I'm going to be doing my first of many D&D class reviews. I'm creating custom classes because it's something that I like to enjoy do in my free time, so I decided why not turn that into some stuff for YouTube. So, my first class that I'm making is known as the Ronin. They're pretty much kind of like samurai-esque builds. They're kind of just loners, pretty much built around being high on defense and offense. Not much magic, but they still have some ways to use it. So, pretty much, they were betrayed at some point in their life, which led to them not trusting people, giving them their reasons on why they're a Ronin rather than a fighter or a samurai or something else like that. Pretty much basic fighter class, hit points 1d10 per level. For hit dice, hit points, you start with 10, and then hit points at higher levels to 1d10 or 6, plus your constitution modifier. Proficiencies, it's medium and light armor. Tools are calligraphers because a lot of samurais did a lot of like art and stuff. And calligraphy is, fancy writing. So then they're good with land vehicles, which is like horses, and a artisan's tool of their choice, because that kind of symbolizes their family's like art on what they did. With weapons, it's all simple weapons, and then all bladed martial weapons. So like glaives, great swords, spears, that kind of stuff, but not like mauls, great axes, stuff like that. More like swords and whips, stuff like that. More flowing weapons. And then all ranged martial weapons. With saving throws, they choose either strength or dexterity for being like kinda either if they're based on like more archery or if they're based more around just punchy, punchy, and like swinging swords and attacking indiscriminately with a sword, which they take strength. And then they take wisdom for something I'll get into later. With skills, they choose two between acrobatics, animal handling, athletics, history, intimidation, perception, and survival. Kind of building on like they were lone warriors that finally decided to give a bit of trust to people. With equipment, they choose either a katana or any like bladed martial weapon of their choice, a breastplate or leather armor, a longbow, and 20 arrows, 5 throwing knives or 2 simple melee weapons, a dungeoneer's pack or an explorer's pack, and calligrapher's tools, the Oni's belt set, which is something that comes into play at 3rd level, and artisan's tool set of their choice. So, with each level, they gain specific stuff, as is of most D&D classes. With it, for their first level, they get a fighting style, based on, being a fighting class. So, they get to choose between Brawler, which improves melee damage with their fists, and improvised weapons, 26 damage. Defense, which is just +1 AC. Protection, which is if someone is attacked within 5 feet of you, you can use your reaction to cause a disadvantage. Blind fighting, which is just blind sight within 10 feet of you. Interception, which is just you use your reaction to cause 1d10 less damage to someone within 5 feet of you. Thrown weapon fighting, just +2 damage with thrown weapons. And then 2 weapon fighting, which is just you get to use your proficiency on both attacks. Then their other first level ability is something called Bushido, which is Japanese for Way of the Warrior, which is kind of like their ancient art of like swordsmanship and like all that stuff. just being like a warrior. Pretty much, they learn art, pretty much special arts that kind of give them special abilities, like lighting their sword on fire, cutting reality in half, and a bunch of other kind of cool abilities that cost Bushido points, which you unlock one more each level, and you start out with 5. You gain more at 3rd level, 7th level, 11th level, 14th level, 16th level, and 18th level, and you just add them whenever you can. Then with 2nd level, their ability is called Masterless, which is pretty much they become immune to frightened and charmed effects, but they take half as much healing from healing effects. It's like pretty much they gotta find from other people. Like if you multi-class with some kind of healing and you use it on yourself, you take full health. But when it's from someone else, you take half of what they normally would give. Then with 3rd level, you unlock your Ronin Mastery, which kind of specializes you in a couple different things. Those being the Shinobi, which is kind of stealth-based, the Shogun, which is kind of like charisma, like leading people, the Kyujutsu, which is kind of like their archer, the Horosho, which is pretty much like just entirely based around using the sword, the Undo Kira, which is kind of based around controlling wind. They can like poison it, run faster, that kind of stuff. The Masked one, which is kind of like based around like the magical masks. Like, you know, the masks that samurais would wear that kind of, they believe, just like, it just looked intimidating. Pretty much that, but it actually gives them abilities. Then there's the Shugo, which is like a tank. With all that, there's pretty much strength to everyone that I'll get into later. Along with 3rd level, you unlock the Mask of the Oni, which pretty much is a kind of like magic. Pretty much their way of using magic. They get these grim-looking masks that grant them their abilities to use. Then, like all other classes, they gain an ability score increase at 4th level, 6th level, 8th level, 12th level, 14th level, 16th level, and 19th level, which can be replaced with a feat instead of an ability score increase if they need to. After that, at 5th level, they get themselves extra attacks, which they gain an extra attack, and they gain another one at 11th and 20th level. Then their big thing like their last like class-specific thing is something called seppuku, which pretty much in actual Japanese history is just pretty much stabbing yourself. That's all it is. But in this, pretty much you stab yourself, taking a bunch of damage, but you also deal more damage afterwards. Then with their last like specific thing that's just overall is their 9th level ability called Martial Prowess, which pretty much when they fail a save, they can just not fail. And then you can use it up to your proficiency level, but that doubles at 13th level, and then after that it doubles again, which pretty much quadruples from the start at 17th level. Now we're going into all the specific Ronin masteries. We have the Shinobi, which is kind of like the stealthy guy, the assassin, the guy who like will sneak in, kind of like a rogue. Pretty much 3rd level, they gain the ability to use use the hide and disengage actions as bonus actions, so they can hide faster. 7th level, they gain Tricks of the Trade, which grants them a proficiency in stealth, Poisoneer's tools, along with a climbing speed of 30 feet, kind of like second story work with the thief. Then at 10th level, they gain the sneak attack, which is different based on the rogues. Pretty much they just deal ×2 damage. Pretty much they just roll like normal and times it by 2. 15th level, they gain Shadow Step, which is just the Misty Step spell that they can cast up to their proficiency bonus without worrying. Then at 17th level, they gain Shinobi Master, which is when in darkness, they can use the hide action to become completely invisible. Then there's the Shogun, which is kind of like the leader, like the person who's in charge of the party, kind of like the social one, the one with like the high charisma. With 3rd level, they gain something called Inspiring Shout, which pretty much gives them kind of like a, pretty much like they can give inspiration to someone to use in their battle. Then there's Fearful Roar at 7th level, which kind of is a 30-foot fear spell casted around you. DC 15 Wisdom, or be frightened for a minute. Then there's Commander's Presence, which doubles the range for the Inspiring Shout and Fearful Raid. Inspiring Shout has a base of 30 feet, but also with Inspiring Shout, I forgot to mention this with it, you gain proficiency in heavy armor, shields, and the Persuasion. So, kind of like becoming more like a tank. Then at level 15, there's the Teacher's Hands, which pretty much allows you to give a proficiency to someone who doesn't have that proficiency, if you have it, to use for an hour. Then their 17th level ability is called At Death's Door, which pretty much when they drop to 0 hit points, they can use the reaction to just not die and just stop that attack. They can use that once per long rest. Then there's the Kyujutsu, which is kind of like the ranger of the group. Like Shinobi is like the rogue, Shogun's like the kind of like paladin. Kyujutsu is kind of like just the ranger, being a lot about archery. 3rd level, they have Eagle Eye, which is they gain no disadvantage at fighting in close range with a bow, and their range with a bow is doubled. 7th level is Cunning Bow. Well, Cunning Arrow. You gain proficiency with Poisoneer's Tools, a climbing speed of 30 feet, and it increases your movement speed by 15 feet. Very similar to the Tricks of the Trade with the Shinobi. True Shot at 10th level, you gain advantage with all attacks with ranged weapons, and ignore up to 3/4 cover. So the only thing that can protect them is max cover. Then at 15th level, you have the Dodge Shot, which when you use the dodge as an action or a bonus action, you automatically can attack. Then their last ability at 17th level is the Sniper's Eye, which doubles the effect of your Eagle Eye and allowing you to somehow shoot through full cover. Pretty much meaning that your arrows can phase through walls. Then there's the Horosho, which means Wanderer. Pretty much they're kind of just like fighters. They're like most basic subclass, just kind of there to fight. Pretty much their first one is Aiejutsu, which is kind of the art of the quick draw. Pretty much they can draw and attack in the same turn. Then they have the 1,000 Strikes at 7th level, which allows you to attack with when you attack with your sword, you pretty much just automatically have another attack. And you gain even more at 14th and 18th level. So pretty much with this, you can attack up to like 7 times per turn once you're max level. Then there is level 10, Master of the Arts, which pretty much doubles the amount of Bushido arts you can use, which I'll get to later. Pretty much they're just really good at learning a lot of these like ancient techniques. And then there's the Disengaging Cut. Pretty much if they take the disengage or the dodge action, they automatically can attack, dealing 2d10 slashing damage to all creatures within a 10-foot arcing range. And then 17th level, Master of Bushido. All their Bushido arts deal max damage, because that can get pretty powerful pretty fast with some of the abilities. And then there's the Undokira, which is pretty much their kind of like the Avatar wind guy. Their first thing is Wind Sight. They automatically gain Blind Sight, but if they already have Blind Sight, it allows them to take a feat of their choice. Then there is at 7th level Wind Speed, which pretty much adds +5, adding 10 feet to your movement speed, and then along with that you gain an extra 5 feet per level. So pretty much at the end you'll be able, so pretty much at 20th level you'll be moving around at like the speed of sound. Then there is their 10th level ability, Protective Cloud, which pretty much they create like a shield of air around them that deal so that they take 3d8 less damage. And they can use that up to their proficiency bonus. Then they have Soiled Wind, which pretty much like pretty much just casts the Cloud Kill spell around you. And they can use that up to their proficiency bonus. Along with that, it's Wind Grab, which is just pretty much you control the wind to grab something, an enemy usually, and it deals 3d8 bludgeoning damage per turn, and blinds and restrains your enemies. And with it you can hold up to your proficiency bonus of the amount of people, along with and you can use that up to your proficiency bonus. And at 17th level you'll be able to do that like 6 times per long rest. Then there's the Masked one, which is kind of like their like magical based one. They're still like kind of stealthy, but they're a lot more based around magic. At 3rd level, they have pretty much, they can take a magical form, pretty much kind of like an Oni, up to for a minute. That gives them the bonus action to automatically cast Misty Step, along with just becoming large and like all the stuff that comes with being large. Like you can carry more, push stuff more, and just deal more damage. Then there's at 7th level, Omen of the Oni, which allows you to pretty much see into the future. You can re-roll saving throws. If you get a better result on your roll, you can take that roll. But you can use that up to your proficiency bonus. So let's say you attack, but then you miss. You can use that to say that you hit. But you still have to re-roll to see if you do. Pretty much it's kind of like a less powerful version of the martial prowess. Then they have Master of the Mask, which gives them an extra mask at 10th, 15th, and 20th level, and they can use them up to their double their proficiency bonus, which is how they use them. Then they have their 15th level ability, Oni's Shape, which allows you to automatically use 3 of the masks: Boogeyman's Sight, Demon Claws, and Troll Cells. They can be used at any time in tandem with each other constantly. Then there's their last level ability, level 17, and that is pretty much they are given access to all the masks that are class restricted, because some of the masks are specific for some classes, and all of them are unrestricted to the Oni. But also they can use triple the amount of the masks, which means they can use them up to like multiple times per battle, each one. Then there's the final subclass for now, called the Shugo. Pretty much they're kind of like the tank, like the complete tank. Pretty much their 3rd level ability is called Protector. They automatically gain the protection fighting style, and if they already have it, they can choose between the Tough and Sentinel Feat. At 7th level, they gain the Armor ability, which allows you to gain proficiency with heavy armor, all weapons, and smith's tools, so you can make more. Then there's your 10th level ability, called wall against the world, which is when you're attacked, you can pretty much strengthen your body. You can use your action to be attacked to reduce damage by a d10 of damage, and at 17th level, it increases to 2d12, and you can use it up to your proficiency bonus. Then there is their 15th level ability, Death Defied, which is the same ability as the Shoguns at Death's Door, but they just go down to 1 hit point. Then afterwards, and then at level 20, their next attack after going down to 1 hit point deals twice as the amount of damage. Then there is their final ability, Body of Steel at 17th level, that gives them a resistance to all physical damage, just bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage. Now onto Bushido arts. There are a lot. I'm just going to go over a summary of each one. Draw Slash is pretty much where you draw your sword fast enough that you light it on fire, dealing 1d8 slashing damage and 1d10 fire damage. It costs 1 Bushido point, and then each point afterwards adds another d10 of fire damage. Then there's Slicing Wind, which pretty much cut the air, causing like a wave of wind to shoot out, dealing slashing damage. And it deals 1d8 slashing damage with a range of 60 feet, costs 1 Bushido point, and each point afterwards adds another d8 of damage and 5 feet of range. Then there is Sheath Throw, which is 5th level. Pretty much you throw your sheath, dealing 2d10 bludgeoning damage within 30 feet. Then if you roll a d20, you can choose to knock that person unconscious, pretty much leaving them out of the fight. Then each point above the usual 2 causes an extra d10 of damage. Then there's the other 5th level ability called Arcing Blade. Pretty much, if you cut someone, and it deals 1d8 lightning damage, and then if there's someone within 30 feet, they take 1 less damage than they did. And it can go up to it can arc between as many people as long as there's still as long as there's 1 more damage to go around. Pretty much like if the first person gets an 8, then the next person takes 7, then 6, then 5, etc., etc. Costs 2 Bushido points, and each point above causes another die of damage to the 1d8 lightning damage, and 1d6 thunder damage is added on each time. Then there's Raining Death, which pretty much you just, the way it looks is pretty much just like a bunch of like giant needles are stabbing into the ground, pretty much within 30 feet of you, dealing damage to everyone all around you. It's a 7th level ability and costs 3 Bushido points. And everyone within 30 feet of you takes 1d8 piercing damage. Pretty much each point above also adds another d8 of damage and 5 feet of range with that. Then there's their 10th level ability called Warp Cut. Pretty much you disappear and then reappear behind someone, dealing a ton of damage and frightening them. DC 15 Wisdom save or be frightened for 60 seconds. Has a range of 60 feet for you to teleport, and they take 2d10 necrotic damage. Pretty much each point above just adds another d10 of necrotic damage. Then there's Vengeful Strike, which is a 3rd level ability, 2 Bushido points. Whenever you take damage from a melee attack, you can automatically just use your reaction to attack back. And pretty much it just deals a d10 of damage. Then their 10th level ability is Unending Edge. You pretty much teleport 100 feet in any direction, and all enemies within that line take 3d10 slashing damage. It's a 10th level ability, costs 5 Bushido points, and each point above adds another 10 feet of range and an extra d10 of damage. Then there is their 14th level ability, Reality Slash, which pretty much freezes time, and then you designate 5 people, and each of them take either 1d10 slashing, 10d10 slashing, or 10d10 psychic damage. Costs 7 Bushido points, and each point above adds another person, and 2d10 more damage. Then there's another third level ability, Frozen Blade, that deals 1d10 damage to the next thing they hit, costs 1 Bushido point, and each point above causes another person to take damage from it, and an extra d10 of damage. So pretty much like they can cut someone and then cut the next person, and they'd still take the freezing damage. Then they have their 5th level ability, Acid Spray, which pretty much they cut down, sending out a wave of acid, 2 Bushido points, 2d8 acid damage, 20 feet arc. Each Bushido points adds another d8 of damage. Then there's 7th level Artery Slash, which they pretty much cut an artery, dealing 1d8 necrotic damage each turn. And they pretty much have to use their entire action to quench the wound, but they just continuously take damage. It costs 3 Bushido points, and each point above adds another 1d8 more damage. Double Cut is pretty much just you get an attack again, costs 1 Bushido point, and each point above adds another cut, so max level you can cut like 25 times. Then there's the third, now we're getting into class specifics. There is the Shinobi's Poison, which pretty much is just a poison attack dealing 2d8 with a 15 Constitution save. For the 3rd level Shinobi, another d8 of damage and can be cured using one or two turns, and then anti-venom or an anti-venom, and it's like the Artery Slash. And there's their Smoke Bomb, which is kind of like a more of an ability thing, pretty much creates heavy obscuration, like heavy cover, and are completely invisible while in it. Costs 1 Bushido point, 20 feet range, and each point adds another 10 feet of range. Then there's the Shogun's Inspiring Charge, which is a 3rd level ability. Pretty much they shout, and charge 20 feet. They attack someone, and then another person gains inspiration. Then each time they can add another inspiration to a person and another 1d6 damage to their attack, no matter what kind of attack it is. Then there is the Healing Shout. Pretty much they yell and they regain one of their hit dice and 2d8 hit points. Then there's the Sniper Shot for the Kyujutsu. They pretty much gain like crazy perception, like advantage on all their ranged attacks, and perception save for a minute. And costs 1 Bushido point, and each point after adds another 30 seconds to that time. Then there's the Rain of Retribution. Pretty much they shoot an arrow up into the sky and it comes down in a 30-foot range. Well, 10-foot range within any 30-foot area of your 10-foot range within 100 feet of you. It deals 2d8 piercing damage to all enemies within the area, and it costs 1 Bushido point. Each point adds another 5 feet of range in the area and an extra d8 of damage. Then the Horosho has their Cyclone Slash, which is pretty much they slice around them, dealing damage to all enemies within 20 feet. They take 3d8 slashing damage, 1 Bushido point, and each point adds another 5 feet of range and another d8 of damage. Spearing Winds is another one of their abilities. Pretty much they stab the air and it shoots out in a 100-foot range, dealing 2d8 piercing damage to all enemies. Costs 1 Bushido point, and each point above adds another 10 feet of damage, and then 10 feet of range and another d8 of damage. There is Projectile Parry. For them, pretty much they slash at an incoming attack using their reaction to stop all that ranged attack, and it just costs 1 Bushido point. And if you use any more, it just doesn't, and you just don't have to use your reaction. Then there is their final ability called the 1,000 Spears. Pretty much they can cut one person as many times. They don't feel any of that damage. But then at the end of a specific amount of time, they decide they take all that damage and d10s of piercing damage for every cut they do. Pretty much it costs 1 Bushido per round. Pretty much if you spend 1 Bushido point, you get 1 round to attack them as much as possible. You spend 3, you get 3 rounds. And then at the end of that, they just take all that damage at once. And the Undokira has something called the Slashing Cyclone, which pretty much forms a clone of you that mirrors all your attacks. So you deal like double the damage for 60 seconds. It costs 1 Bushido point, and each point that you add adds another 10 seconds and D of damage. That is done. Then they have an ability called Wind Wing at 3rd level, which lifts them into the air, giving them a flying speed of 30 feet for 60 seconds. It costs 1 Bushido point, and each point adds another 10 feet and 10 seconds to that timer. Then for the Shugo, they have something called Perfect Parry, which pretty much they block something perfectly and are able to deal an extra D8 once they're done parrying. Then they have Mountainous Body, which pretty much pretty much they can't move anymore, but they are completely immune to damage. They can't take any actions, but they just can't die. It costs 1 Bushido point, and it lasts 60 seconds. Each point after adds another 10 seconds. Then the masked one has Fearful Gaze, which pretty much they can look at someone and they have to take a DC 15 Wisdom save or be frightened for 60 seconds. Each costs 1 Bushido point, and each point after adds another DC plus 1 to the save, along with 10 feet of the range of 60 feet. Then their ability, Mask Throw, pretty much they can throw their mask, dealing 3d8 necrotic damage to anyone they hit within 60 feet. And it costs 1 Bushido point, and each point above adds another 10 feet of range and another d8 of necrotic damage. Then they have Parry, which is pretty much they just deflect an attack, pretty much decreasing it by a d8 of damage. It costs 1 Bushido point, and each point after adds another d8 of damage. Then they have Last Stand, which is their 14th level ability, which pretty much, if they die, they can spend all their Bushido points to come back to life with 1 hit point. Then they have Spearing Dash, which is another ability they can get at any time, which they just take a dash action of 20 feet and attack an enemy. It just costs 1 Bushido point, and each point after adds another 10 feet of range. Then they have the Oni masks, which are, only a few of them are non-class specific, but they're all very powerful. The few main ones that are non-class specific are Oni's Shape, which is a disguised self, and alter self spell with a DC 18 Wisdom save to see through the disguise. And the mask pretty much looks like a red mask with a very long nose. Then there's the Demon's Bite, which is pretty much like the mask kind of lashes out and like bites someone, dealing 3d8 piercing damage and heals you of a d8 of damage. It kind of appears like an animalistic bear-like creature with long fangs covered in kind of like wood carved like fur. Then there's the Oni's Claw, which are pretty much long nails that you grow that pretty much deal 1d6 slashing damage, and it stacks with the Brawler fighting style. And when you use it, you get a climbing speed of 30 feet along with it. It kind of looks like more of like a white mask with like red accents along it. Then there's the final one that is non-class specific, and that is the Oni's Mist, which pretty much is kind of a gaseous form spell that you can use up to your proficiency bonus. And when you use it, pretty much you just kind of like turn into mist. And that mask is like a gray mask with kind of like clouds along like the edges of the face, kind of symbolize like turning into mist. Then there are the class specifics. With the Shinobi, they have Step of the Oni, which allows them to have the Misty Step and Haste spell, which they can which they can use up to their proficiency bonus. It kind of it's like this gray and black mask with like the lower face kind of completely covered, and its upper face like having bright red eyes. Then there's the Oni's Shadow, which is invisibility spell, which you're completely invisible, and when you attack, creatures can't find you no matter what. It's like complete invisibility, nothing can find you. This mask is just completely black, no features. It's a featureless mask. Then, with the Shogun, they have the Oni's Gaze, which is a feeder spell. 30 feet, DC 15 Wisdom, and 60 seconds of being frightened if they fail. Pretty much, it's like this kind of like really like intense looking mask, similar to the Demon Bite, but kind of like more like humanoid rather than animalistic, just crazy looking. Then with them they have the Oni's Wrath, which is just a barbarian's rage ability, and it's just like pretty much a description of it would just be like pretty much just a normal, like pretty much the bottom part is like red with like fangs sticking out, being like, and the upper half is just like black eyes and no other like big features with it. Then with the Horosho, they don't have any because they're specifically based more around using the Bushido arch rather than the masks. The Undokira has Flight of the Oni, which is a flight spell. Their abilities kind of look like clouds that like they can walk, kind of like clouds. This one's like a whitish mask with like a lot of wavy movements on it. Then there is the Poison Breath, which pretty much when you use it, it lets out like this green mist, kind of acting like the Cloud Kill spell. And when you use it, pretty much it just covers the ground in like this green mist. So how it looks is pretty much like just a plain white mask like the last one, but it has like green foam around its mouth, kind of like a green around the mouth and nose area. Then with the masked one, they don't have any mask specifics. The Kyujutsu has something called the Boogeyman's Sight, which is a true sight spell. It's similar to the other masks, just like a plain mask, just pure wood, except for its eyes are bright yellow. Then it has the Oni's Glare. Pretty much they can deal 1d8 psychic damage to any enemy within 60 feet as a bonus action. And it's very similar to the other Kyujutsu mask, except the eyes are like purplish red rather than a yellow. Then the Shugo, it has something called Healing Grip, which pretty much they can like either grab themselves or an ally, healing them of 3d8 health. It kind of got like this softer featured mask with like a smile rather than like the rest of them looking all angry. Then there's Troll Cells, which pretty much they gain regeneration of 1d6 hit points per turn for 5 turns whenever they use it. Then that's for the Shugo. Then pretty much that's all the class really. That's what I have for now. I might update it later with more stuff. I'll have a separate video for if I do. But for now, that's all I have. Pretty much some applications would be like a lot of characters that have more like Japanese based, and they can really be used as like anything that's needed in a party, similar to a bard. They have a lot of abilities that are just random, that can fulfill any role that's needed. Well, I hope you enjoyed my first video about classes, and I hope you tune in soon. Bye.